Alright, we are back yet again for Fantasy Football in 5. Last week was our week 6 recap. This week will be week 7.
So if you haven't seen last week's video, please check that below. Okay, so we have an awesome list of studs this week in the NFL. Start off with T.Y. Hilton, Amari Cooper, Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, Mark Ingram, and Rob Gronkowski.
There's also Todd Gurley, Phillip Rivers, Lamar Miller, Arian Foster, Kirk Cousins, Mike Evans, and Chris Johnson.
Now, Chris Johnson was a real treat for fantasy owners this week. He had a really good game against the Ravens on Monday night. He had a touchdown, almost close to 100 yards, or maybe more. So he had a really good week, and he seemed to take over the Cardinals' backfield.
Mark Ingram, now he just absolutely carved up the Colts defense, and he led the Saints to a win, which not very many people expected, and he just took over that game. Alright, now a couple of duds this week in fantasy include names like LeGarrette Blount, Travis Benjamin, Eli Manning, Larry Fitzgerald, Colin Kaepernick, and Golden Tate.
You can also add Odell Beckham, Julius Thomas, Jordan Matthews, and the Jets defense.
Odell Beckham absolutely haunted fantasy owners this week, scoring a measly 3 points on 35 yards, and he was practically non-existent in the game.
Travis Benjamin, the Browns wide receiver, he only had 40 yards, but he fumbled, so fantasy owners made a grave mistake starting him this week. Okay, some injuries in the NFL this week. We can start with John Brown, Des Bryant, Emmanuel Sanders, Josh McCown, Drake Bell, Matt Stafford, Victor Cruz, Eric Decker, Carlos Hyde, Antonio Gates, and Austin Seferian-Jenkins, and all those guys are questionable.
There's also Leonard Hankerson for the Falcons, who is out, Tyrod Taylor, who is out, Joseph Randle, Marcus Mariota, who are both out, Vincent Jackson, doubtful, and Big Ben, who is probable this week.
Thank the Lord.
Alright, some news this week in the NFL. Texans release quarterback Ryan Mallett because he was late to a team meeting, and this has pretty much solidified the starting spot for Brian Hoyer. There was also an absolute slaughter this week for tearing your Achilles, with Arian Foster and Cameron Wake both going down this week, and they will not return for the whole season.
The Lions fired offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, which is good news for fantasy owners, I think, because it opens the game up for Stafford and Calvin Johnson. Long-time wide receiver Brandon Lloyd retired. I don't know if he last played with maybe the Patriots, but he had a really good career, and he's a good overall player. Okay, some waiver wire pickups in fantasy this week. Darren McFadden, Stephon Diggs, Alfred Blue, Nate Washington, Ted Ginn Jr., and Brian Hoyer.
Stephon Diggs absolutely massacred the Lions defense this week, scoring an amazing touchdown on his way to leading the Vikings in receiving.
Besides that, teams on a bye this week include Jacksonville, Buffalo, Washington, and Philadelphia. So if you have anybody in your lineup on that team, take them out. Alright, this was Fantasy Football in 5. We deliver the fantasy news in 5 minutes or less because who wouldn't want to watch a 30-minute video on this topic?
Amen.
This is the Week 7 recap. Next week will be Week 8, so don't forget to watch that.
Our fantasy team lost this week for the second week in a row. We scored 121 points, but still lost. This brings our record to 3-4, but we are still alive in the playoffs.
7th place.